Darkcast Network, out of the shadows come the best of indie podcast. I'm Crystal, and you are listening to Beyond the Rainbow, True Crimes of the LGBTQ.
Hey, I happily have a potty mouth, and no, I won't flush it away. So listen and love it. Hey there, Rainbow Warriors, and welcome to my first Minisode in quite a while. I had to make this week's episode a mini one because I was running out of time to research, write, edit, and do all the fun things. Plus get more inventory made for this coming week's farmer's market. But here we are. And I would love to see your beautiful face in Denver, July 12th through the 14th for the True Crime Paranormal Festival. I'll put a link in my show notes. And if you type Beyond, B-E-Y-O-N-D, at checkout, they'll give you 15% off your tickets. Come meet me and some other incredible Darkcast hosts, as well as other hosts from podcasts such as Voices of Justice with Sarah Turney, the guys from Generation Y Pod, Josh from True Crime Bullshit, Arlene Harbison, whose uncle Leon Lorales was murdered in 1996. And now she has her own true crime podcast called Box in the Basement. And there's going to be so many more. There'll be paranormal podcasts, victim advocacy groups. And last year in Austin, I even got to meet Julie Murray, sister to one of the most famous missing person cases ever, that Amara Murray. It'll be quite the event. At my booth, I'll have 3 raffle bags with merch from Darkcast shows, and I'll be giving those away on Saturday of the event. The contents of each bag is over a $50 value. I sure hope to see some of you warriors there. I'm still looking for Rainbow Warriors to send me some soundbite recordings. Darkcast Network, out of the shadows come the best of indie podcasts. And then you would insert your name, and you're listening to Beyond the Rainbow, True Crimes of the LGBTQ+. I'll leave a copy of this soundbite script in the show notes, as well as my email where to send it to. You don't have to have fancy equipment. Just recording it on your phone and sending it in should be fine. And our last order of business for this minisode, I would like to shout out Griffin as the newest member of the Rainbow Warrior Patreon family. Woohoo! Griffin will be riding our lavender-maned unicorn rodeo at the end of each month when our Patreon group gets together with our unicorns and we ride to a special spot. And I'll share a story that I haven't covered here on the regular show. Thank you, Griffin. You rock. If you've been looking for a new gay drama to watch, I might have just found it. Okay, that's not right at all. It's not a television show, but a story that happened in real life. It started 26 years ago. With what the story is filled with, it could have been a gay drama. But what it is now is a tale of murder, deceit, and betrayal. 50-year-old Timothy Stephenson is a gay man, and he's been living with dark secrets since he was in his early 20s. But with a twist of fate, and my friend, that bitch Karma, not putting up with his shit anymore, Timothy's secrets have been exposed. Now let's start the scene from the beginning. It started in Kansas City, Missouri. Surprisingly to me, Kansas City has a number of gay bars and clubs. The Dixie Belle Saloon, which opened in 1983, was one of the oldest gay bars in the city. It has since closed in the year of 2006. The Dixie Belle catered to the BDSM crowd mostly, leather daddies, and those with kink fetishes within the LGBTQ community. The night of January 17, 1998, a then 24-year-old Timothy went to the Dixie Belle. After a few drinks and cruising around the bar for a while, he met 26-year-old Randy Oliphant. According to Generation Y podcast, Randy had grown up in Waco, Texas, and he had moved to Kansas City where he worked at a bank and he lived in an apartment in Midtown. Randy's mom had told the police her son believed there may have been a hit out on him. And the reason for this is he was in some way involved in drugs. He was possibly a drug mule, but he was involved in some way in the drug trade and he owed some people money. But that night, none of that seemed to matter to either Randy or Timothy. The two men talked for a while, and then Timothy invited Randy home with them, and Randy accepted. Upon arriving at Timothy's home at 5125 Tracy Avenue, the exact events that occurred are unknown. But at some point, Timothy loaded up a shotgun and he shot Randy twice in his abdomen, ending Randy's life. Timothy then pulled Randy's body out to the garage, and then he put him into his Jeep. He drove Randy's body to a rural area in Benton County, nearly 2 hours away. There he would dump Randy's remains and head back to his home in Kansas City. Apparently, a large mess was left in Timothy's bathroom, so much so that he couldn't clean it with just bleach and be done with it. I imagine there were big bullet holes, too. Timothy decided he would remodel the bathroom and clear away all the evidence. I took a look at this home on redfin.com. It's a really nice house. At least now it is. I'm not sure what it looked like 26 years ago. But I also noticed that the neighbors are pretty close. So it kind of surprises me that the shotgun blasts weren't heard and reported by them. When Randy didn't show up for work and no one could get a hold of him on his cell phone, yes, younger generation, there were cell phones in 1998, Randy was reported as a missing person. Flyers were distributed and his family grew sick with worry. Days and weeks went by and nobody had heard from or seen Randy. 2 months later, a couple of fishermen stumbled upon the body of a man who appeared to have been dead for a while. He was wearing jeans, boots, and a Western belt. In the pocket of his jeans was a business card for the Dixie Belle. Police were quickly able to deduce that this was their missing man, Randy Oliphant. Detectives started their investigation at the Dixie Belle. Witnesses from the night of January 17th told of a guy named Timothy Stephenson. They said that Randy had left the bar with Timothy. So the police got in contact with Timothy and they did an interview. Timothy told them, yeah, Randy came home with them, but after they were done, he dropped Randy off at another bar. Still, police were suspicious of Timothy since he seemed to be the very last one to see Randy alive. They found no other witnesses who saw Randy at any other bar that night. Police kept their eye on Timothy for a while, but they just couldn't prove anything. Shortly after Randy's body was found, Timothy sold his Jeep because the police investigation was starting to heat up. Police contacted the new owners of the Jeep, and they told the police that some carpet above the Jeep's wheel wells were missing, and that inspired the detectives to get a search warrant and comb through the Jeep. They found some blood drops, but with DNA not being yet as good as it is today, they couldn't conclusively determine who the blood belonged to. And although law enforcement had tracked Timothy's cell phone to ping off towers in Benton County, it seemed any evidence they had was weak and circumstantial. It just couldn't be linked to Timothy. A couple years later, Timothy married a Kansas City woman. But that marriage ended really quickly in divorce. Because you can't live your truth when you try to hide it in a lie, now can you, Timothy? Nearly 10 years after Randy's murder, Timothy had made the decision to move to Northern California near San Francisco. Once he was there, he met Dr. Joseph Janucco. Joseph was and probably still is an emergency room physician. The two started to date, and they married soon after in 2008. Yes, Timothy did really well for himself with the doctor. The married couple's net worth was in the millions, and they lived in a very nice home in Danville, California, which isn't far from San Francisco. In 2013, the couple would welcome baby twin girls into their family. They were now bubbly, gushing dads, and it seemed as though Timothy had turned his life around. The following year, in 2014, Timothy would reveal his deepest, darkest secret to his husband, Joseph. He confessed to murdering a man in his home of Kansas City, Missouri. And he told Joseph of shooting the man in his bathroom. He told of how the man pleaded for his life, and then how he shot him again. He told of dumping the man's body in a rural area. He told of remodeling his bathroom where the crime occurred, and he told his husband he had gotten away with murder. Timothy must have been feeling some type of remorse to suddenly divulge this information that he had held on to for nearly 16 years. I honestly can't imagine walking around for that long with something so dark and sinister holding me down. I mean, I've done some shitty things in my life that I've automatically regretted, and I haven't told a soul about. But murder? I just can't fathom if you're a person with any kind of conscience holding that in for so damn long. Joseph kept his husband's secret, at least for a while. 6 years later, in 2019, the couple's relationship had been getting tumultuous. In January of 2020, Joseph filed for a domestic violence restraining order against Timothy, and then he filed for divorce. Things were getting especially ugly between Timothy and Joseph. In 2021, in an attempt to gain sole custody of their twin daughters, Joseph told police about Timothy's murder confession. After checking out the validity of Joseph's story with Kansas City police, detectives where Joseph lived convinced him to wear a wire to try and get Timothy to confess again, only this time it was going to be recorded. So Joseph called Timothy and he asked him to meet him to talk about some of the terms of their divorce and the custody of their daughters. Timothy agreed to meet with Joseph. And when Joseph asked Timothy to tell him again why he killed Randy Oliphant, Timothy became suspicious, and he asked Joseph if he was wearing a wire. Joseph, of course, said no, and then Timothy patted him down, but he didn't find the wire. He was still suspicious, though. Timothy gave a bunch of conflicting statements, including that he never said he killed Randy. He said an ex-boyfriend of his did. So that ploy just didn't pan out for the police. In 2022, Kansas City police did a whole new DNA profile on the Randy Oliphant case. They were even able to run the blood samples found in Timothy's old Jeep through new technology. The blood drops in Timothy's Jeep had matched Randy's. Kansas police made a call to Danville police and Timothy was arrested. He was charged with second-degree murder and extradited back to Kansas City. He was held there for a bit in Kansas City, but then he was released on house arrest while he awaited trial. It was during this time that Timothy stayed with an aunt of his. She lived in rural area Benton County. Aha! That's why Timothy was so familiar with the land in Benton County, and why he disposed of Randy's body there. He had family that lived in Benton. While he was staying with his aunt, Timothy was arrested again, and this time it was his aunt that actually called the police on Timothy. She had went away for a bit, and when she came home, he had friends over and he was doing drugs. She no longer could handle the responsibility, nor did she want the responsibility of babysitting a grown-ass man, especially since Timothy was hell-bent on self-destruction. When the police showed up to arrest him, Timothy was in his room, sitting on his bed, smoking meth from a glass pipe. He also had $7,000 in his closet. And it came out later during his trial, the real reason Timothy confessed his crime to his husband, Joseph. I was hoping to give him the benefit of the doubt, but it wasn't to clear his conscience. It was rather to scare Joseph into not leaving him. After all, he killed once, he could kill again. Timothy's motive for murdering Randy has never really come out. Some say it had to do with drugs. Some think Timothy must suffer from mental illness. What do you guys think? For me personally, I kind of think Timothy has anger issues. He pleaded guilty, but that was in order to take a plea deal and not be put away for life. He was sentenced to 16 years of incarceration, having served 2 before his trial even began. He should be out of prison in 14 years. At that time, he'll be around the age of 65. Rest in power, Randy. I love you, Rainbow Warriors. You matter. Remember, it's not a crime to be gay, unless you're a murderer.